Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Gargoyle's Great Axe, specifically what it's like at max level. So that's plus 25 using regular smithing stones. However, this is kind of going to be a two-segment video because this is also the weapon that I ended up defeating Malenia with. So I thought it would be interesting to cover that aspect as well, looking at my character build. I kind of built it specifically to defeat her. So we'll go over how I use this weapon as well as the stats and the items and equipment that I used. It ended up being pretty effective. So I'll also show the full clip of me defeating her so you can kind of see that in action. But it ended up being a pretty powerful late game build just in general as well. So not just for Malenia, but just overall. So we'll talk about that as well. But starting off, we'll look at the axe itself. Starting off real quick, just covering where you can find this weapon. So we are currently right outside the Lindell area. We're at the Outer Wall Phantom Tree side of Grace. And basically this is a reward that you get for like a mini boss fight that you need to do. So if you start running up these stairs, that's going to prompt a gargoyle to fly down and he'll land right around the top of these stairs up here. And basically you just have to defeat him and that will be the reward, is you'll get the Gargoyle's Great Axe. Now comparing the stats of the weapon, looking at its base value compared to its max level at plus 25. Starting off, the weight is at 8.5, so it's fairly light. The attack power is 123 at base level. That scales up to 301 at plus 25. And then in terms of attribute scaling, it starts out at a C strength scale and then an E dex scale. After upgrading it to 25, that goes up to a B on strength, but the dex remains at an E. And then in terms of the attributes that are required, it is primarily a strength-focused weapon, so you need 24 strength and 8 dexterity. For the Ash of War, I've primarily been sticking with two main ones, either Wild Strikes or Bloodhound Step, depending on the use case. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But starting off with Wild Strikes, if you do have the Iron Whet Blade, you can use the Heavy Affinity, which will use an S strength scale, which is kind of nice. However, my character build is kind of a strength arcane build, and I've been sticking with the Blood Affinity, which you get from the Black Whet Blade. So this is really powerful for enemies that do take blood loss damage. And you can also see that it has a D arcane scaling as well as the A strength scaling. So I've been sticking with that. However, if you do come across enemies that maybe are immune to blood, you can use heavy or one of the other options. The other one is Bloodhound Step, also using the Blood Affinity. So I'll show this. This is primarily used when I was fighting Malenia and other boss. It's useful for other boss fights as well, but that skill can dodge attacks really well. And then also adding that Blood Affinity just gives you general blood loss damage in addition to your regular attacks, which again is really powerful for those enemies that can take blood damage. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some damage from the weapon, going through all of its standard attacks, single-handed, two-handed, regular attack, heavy attack, etc. Starting off, I don't have any affinity applied, so this is just kind of the regular weapon. And you'll notice that the damage output really isn't going to be anything too special. And then afterwards, I will apply the Blood Affinity to really see the impact of that damage. So starting off, we are in single-handed, and I'll do a regular attack combo. So that's 1471. Now I'll do a heavy attack combo. So 461, 461. A jump attack. 482, and then here's a charged heavy attack, 618. Let's go into two-handed mode, and I'll do a regular attack combo. So 1657. Here's a heavy attack combo. So 518, 518. We'll do a jump heavy attack, 539, and then here's a charged heavy attack, 680. So now I've applied Wild Strikes with the Blood Affinity, and we'll look at the impact of that. So not only is this going to apply blood damage to Wild Strikes, the move itself, but it's going to apply blood damage to all of my moves. So even regular attacks is going to get that additional blood damage. And it should be pretty blatant when I do this to see the impact that it has. So you'll notice once that blood loss kicks in, there's going to be a huge damage hit to the enemy. And I'm not going to go through all of the attacks like I did in the previous segment, but I'll just kind of do some examples here. So we're in two-handed mode, and I'll do a regular attack combo. So there you can see, I'll go through another cycle here. You can see that when that blood loss kicks in, that's where all that damage comes in, and you can see how quickly, compared to the previous segment, how quickly I took out this enemy. And then finally here, I'll do the Wild Strikes attack with the Blood Loss Affinity. So you can see, once that Blood Loss kicks in, you get those huge damage hits. So there's a quick 13,000 damage. We'll compare that to the Heavy Affinity, so I have that applied now, and we'll do Wild Strikes with that affinity. So, I mean, this really kind of demonstrates how impactful that blood affinity is for enemies that do allow for blood damage. So you can see, wore out all my stamina, and he still got about a quarter of health left. Alright, so that is a general overview of the weapon itself. Now I'm going to kind of shift focus to my character build and what I did to defeat Malenia using this weapon. But overall, just kind of wrapping things up, I think this is a super powerful weapon, but it's all kind of dependent on using that blood affinity. Right now, honestly, though, it's probably my current favorite weapon to use. Up until now, I was using the Star Scourge Greatsword for basically everything, but I kind of hit a wall using that against Malenia, which led me to trying out all sorts of different new character builds that I was trying to come up with, and finally landed on this, which ended up working really well. So I'll talk about my stats that I have, my equipment, and the talismans, etc. that I used in order to defeat her. So this is a build kind of focused on blood damage, obviously. So we'll talk more about that, but starting off, just looking at my stats to give you an idea of where I was at. I believe I was level 149 when I killed her. I'm level 152 now, but for the most part, my stats were identical to what we're looking at here. Primarily focused on strength to take advantage of the weapon, so it is a strength-focused weapon, so 85 strength, and then also arcane to take advantage of the blood damage, so 39 arcane. And then for the rest of the stats, kind of splitting that up between health and stamina, so 35 vigor and 45 endurance. Not really any focus on mind or intelligence. I did put faith up to 11 to use an incantation that I'll talk about. So that required 11 faith, which is why that stat is that number. In terms of the equipment, so not really important here, but I'm using basically the full Veteran's armor set for my armor. And then on the talisman side, I have the Crimson Amber Medallion +2, so that gives me some additional health. If we unequip that, so you can see it takes my health from 1216 to 313. I have that equipped. I'm using Radagon's Source Seal, so that'll increase my vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity by 5 each. However, it also increases the damage taken a little bit as well. So I have that equipped, and then also the Claw Talisman to take advantage of additional jump attack damage. And then finally, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which will increase attack power once that blood loss kicks in. And then, as mentioned, I did use an incantation during this fight, which was super useful, which is the Swarm of Flies, which is also a blood loss damage attack. So we can see that here. So that requires 11 faith and 16 arcane. So that's why my faith is at 11. But that, and you'll see during the fight, releases a swarm of blood flies that does blood damage. So that's also a very powerful attack that helped out during the fight. And then finally, I think kind of the last call out for this build is using the Bloodhound Step Ash of War for the axe. So if you're not familiar with what this does, it's kind of a teleporting dodge attack, which primarily, really the only reason to have this is to counter her Waterfowl Dance attack. So again, you'll see me use that in the clip of me fighting her. But this can be pretty invaluable to get through that attack without At the very least, a small amount of damage. It might be kind of hard to block the entire thing or dodge the entire thing, but it's a great counter for minimizing the damage that she does with that. Wrapping things up, one thing I did forget to mention, which is kind of an important piece of this whole puzzle, is that I do use my Mimic tier, which is upgraded to +10. The way I kind of decided to use that was I wanted to get through her first Waterfowl Dance attack and then use the Mimic tier, so that's kind of what I do in the fight. But that's also another kind of valuable piece of equipment that I use to end up defeating her. But overall, yeah, I'll show the clip and then kind of end the video there. So thanks for watching, and we will see you later. Bye. Shit. Okay, that was really good. Oh, I don't have enough magic. Alright. Damn it. She should get stunned here soon. There we go. Okay. Wrong button. God damn it. Choking. No, 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 no. Come on. There we go. There we go. I need stamina. Fuck. Back up, back up, back up. Come on. No, 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 no. Yes!
Extraordinary. The mark of a true...
I can't believe I did that. Jesus.